So moved.
Second?
Second.
First and second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed nay. Motion carries, meeting is open. So, the Meetings Act is posted on the door back there, if you care to read it. Roll call, Wyatt.
Yes.
Tim.
Yes.
Chance.
Yep.
Deb. Thor.
Yes.
Myself here. Consent agenda. Let's see, look through the agenda. Is there any comments on the agenda itself? Changes? Other than number 7 will not be taking place. Okay, the minutes, last month. Okay, there's nothing there, we'll move on to the financials.
Okay, just to let you know, in the next month or so, you may see a transfer in and out from building fund to general fund. We've got a couple of low months of property tax receipts, and our general fund is running at a pretty low rate right now, and our payroll at $370,000 to $380,000 a month. We may need to use a different fund to subsidize. Perfectly legal, you can borrow from one taxing fund to the other, and you can do so for up to 2 years, to pay that back. But June will be a receipt of over $1 million anticipated. But in our next budget cycle, we've held the line on our general fund for several years, but yet our payroll has been steadily increasing, and so we are at a point where we're probably going to have to consider the building where the building levy is. If we want to stay static on the total, we'll have to consider that in the next fiscal year. But between now and June, and we'll point that out to you definitely next month if that's necessary, because we're expecting anywhere from 3 to just over 400,000 in receipts in the next 2 months. We've got 150 in general fund now, and so that might not cover our payroll for the next 2 months. So we just borrow from one taxing fund to cover, and then transfer that back when we get that large.
You don't think the staff will let it ride for a month?
We'll take a poll if you'd like, but I have a good idea about how that might come out. So it will be time, certainly in our next budget cycle, to take into more consideration. Payroll expenses are just always increasing, but we've held the line on that general fund, and we've gone thin, and we're getting to that point. So
I went and looked last year, like we were 40, we had 42% of the 46%
Yeah.
budget.
Yeah.
This year we're kind of backwards, we're 45 and 42. Is there kind of some reasons why we're falling behind? Are we gonna do anything to kind of catch back up?
As Kelly and I were looking through that too. I mean, so for example, last month when we had $188,000 in claims, 80,000 of that were unanticipated at the time that we set the budget, and 60 of that 80 we're waiting for our CARES reimbursement, which I'll report on here in a little bit. So we will get a reimbursement of that 60. We had a $20,000 tuition expense to Iowa School to Deaf, which those things happen and you don't anticipate them. So that's definitely a factor in there. But we got to sharpen our pencil now. For the rest of the fiscal year for sure, and then look quite a bit more seriously at projected payroll expenses.
So it's kind of some unexpected stuff that came in.
Yeah, and so that's why we look at claims very carefully, obviously every month, and we see, are these all somewhat budgeted for, anticipated, planned? Some of them aren't. But some of it also is, we have to, and I don't know how some other schools do this, we've got the stimulus money, but you can't claim that stimulus money until you show, expenses for that. And so, you're having to pay for it in advance and then ask the feds, to approve your grant and your expense request. So that's where we're at on stimulus 1.
Okay.
Stimulus 2 can go on for a couple of years yet, so we have plenty of time to consider that and plan for that.
But we also got to remember, we may not get that reimbursement. I mean, that's a lot bigger check, $250,000 or whatever.
231.
If we're gonna go ahead and spend that and not get it back for 2 years.
Well, we've got 2 years to spend it, so I mean, I can claim expenses as we spend it.
And they'll reimburse you
Yes.
as you do it.
Okay, thanks.
Mhm.
Okay, there's nothing more there. We'll go into the claims. For this activities fund, Kelly, the second one down has got 12/31 of 2020.
Yeah, that's just the balance that she's got on there. She just.
But is that 2020 or should that be 21?
No, that's from last year.
Oh, that is from last year?
She's just got some rolling balances on there.
Okay.
The first one should be 2020, right, Kelly?
Yes.
Oh, the first one should be 2020.
Yeah, so it's 12/1 and 20, and then 12/31 and 20.
It wasn't cheap to keep the school warm.
No. it's not.
Yep, and we added about, a dozen of our own little space heaters. So it was a rough go for a few days, asking a lot of boilers and even new heating equipment in the elementary to try to keep up with that.
So was the boiler a problem because it had to work so hard?
No.
Or we had it anyway?
No, it wasn't.
They were able to fix it though, or something?
Yeah, again, they were able to fix it again.
There's no more questions on that. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I move to accept the consent agenda as presented.
Second? I'll second it. First and second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed nay. Motion carries. Okay, we'll move on to number 8, public comments. Where's my paper at? During that portion of our agenda set aside for public comment, each person wishing to address the board will be recognized by the board president. Also, each person wishing to address the board will be allowed only one opportunity to do so this evening. We request that you limit your comments to 5 minutes or less, and we'll advise you when that 5-minute time period has elapsed. Please remember that this is a public meeting for the conduct of the business of the Plainview Public School District. Offensive language, personal attacks, and hostile conduct will not be tolerated. You should be further advised that there is no legal protection for any comments that are made. Does anyone wish to speak tonight? I read that for nothing.
I'm Julie Brookhauser.
Okay.
First and foremost, I just want to say thank you to the board, to all the faculty and everything from a year ago, starting from a year ago up until now. I know that the policies and procedures were ever evolving. And I just really appreciate all the steps that you guys took to ensure the safety of not only the faculty, but all of our students and our children. I guess I'm here tonight in regards to the face masks and if they should be worn. I really feel as a parent, my own opinion is let the parent choose whether or not their student, their child should have to wear the mask. I don't know, it's really hard for me to justify them having to wear a mask when we have wrestling tournaments, we have basketball tournaments, we have all these different things going on. Our children are wrestling, other children are basketball, our students are playing with their basketball kids. They're sharing a basketball, they're, wrestling. They're coming into contact with all of those germs, and they're coming home to us. So if they're out on the playground, or if they're in the school, what difference does it matter when you guys have opened up the school to sporting events, which I agree, students need to get back to some sort of normalcy. But if we're allowing the sporting events, and we're allowing those students to participate without masks, and getting in close contact with other students from around the area, which we don't know their germs or whatnot, why are we still making our students wear masks? I really feel that it should be the parents' choice whether or not to enforce it. And I know you guys want to protect and the faculty, if they want to wear masks, great. If the parents of the students, they want them to wear masks, great. But I really feel that us as parents should be able to, at this point, determine whether or not how we feel our students should wear them or not. Just because we open up to all activities. I know in Norfolk, there's not one positive COVID patient in the hospital. The state numbers for hospitalizations is about 150 for the state. So I really want to, number one, commend all of you guys for everything that you guys have been through in the last year. I know you guys have made some tough calls and been in tough situations, and I know what that's like, and I really admire all of you for being out there. But at this point, I guess I'd really like to see our students, the parents be able to decide whether or not to allow their children to either wear a mask or not. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
I guess I will follow it too.
And state your name, please.
My name is Christiana Bennett, and I am married. My name is Christiana Bennett. My husband and I have 6 children. We live here in Plainview. To be completely honest, this is the absolute last thing that I want to be doing on a Monday night. But I feel like the issue of whether school board members have the right to take the health of my children in their hands when they're not my children's doctors is serious. Like I mentioned, I'm the mother of 6 children, the oldest 3 of whom are school age, and they're now being taught at home. Because my husband and I were not scared that they would contract COVID, just like we are not scared that they will contract the flu when going to school. But they're at home because you guys thought that you had the authority to require and force my kids to wear face coverings against my husband's and my wishes. We can discuss whether masks do or don't work all day and whether they protect the kids or not. We'll probably never agree on it. There are those that think that they do, and there are those that think they don't. To me, it comes down to simply whether you have the right to tell me whether they should wear masks or not. It is one thing for cities, states, and stores to decide to take away adults' rights that I would state are protected under the United States Declaration of Independence. Adults can advocate for themselves and their own freedoms if they choose. I think it's a sad reflection on our society and our country when school board members decide that they have the authority to take away the rights of so many children. And not only take away these rights, but to inform the parents 100% what is best for their children's health. I guess I asked where we draw the line. Is it going to be COVID vaccination requirements next? Or is it going to be high school boys sharing girls' locker rooms because they're suddenly identify as a girl? Or maybe it's when kids have to apologize for their skin color. And you might say that's never going to happen, but I would just say that the masks were supposed to be 2 weeks. And here we are 8 months later discussing it. I guess I'm just going to close with a quick article from the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, Article 1 and 2 of the Declaration of Human Rights. Article 1, all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. They are endowed with reason, consciousness, and should act towards one another in a spirit of brotherhood. Article 2, everyone is entitled to all the rights and freedoms set forth in this declaration without distinction of any kind, such as race, color, sex, language, religion, political or other opinion, national, social origin, property, birth, or other status. Furthermore, no distinction shall be made on the basis of the political, jurisdictional, or international status of the country or territory to which a person belongs, whether it be independent, trust, non-self-governing, or under any other limitations of sovereignty. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else who wish to speak? High school kids didn't take a poll in school today? Okay. All right, thank you all for coming in, and all those that contacted us too over the weekend and today, emails and texts. We appreciate getting their opinions. So I don't know if it made it any easier, but we appreciate getting their opinions. All right, we'll move on to discussion items. Number 9, review board policy 505.05, 505.06, and 505.07.
So 50505 is about fines for lost or damaged items. Obviously, it happens all the time, either through, an intentional or careless act. If school property is damaged or broken, building administrator determines repair costs or replacement costs, and those are passed on. And so that does happen somewhat routinely, anywhere from 2 to 20 times a year, I guess.
Sure.
So I don't know that we have any recommendation for language change. The second paragraph here, though, we don't have a fee or a fine schedule, which would be to say, okay, if you break a table, it's this. If you break a book, it's this. If a computer, it's that. We haven't tried to determine some lengthy list to be all-inclusive. We just kind of take it case by case. And so paragraph 2, while it doesn't prohibit or hinder us from enforcement of this in any way, it's not incredibly relevant because we don't have a schedule, nor do I think we intend to try to create one.
Do you ever have any problems collecting the money because we don't have any?
That's a little more difficult. I can't speak to any special circumstances where the principal has said, well, this kid can't get their grades at the end of the year because they still owe, I don't know, $200 for a table, let's say, right? If that were to happen. So you hope it doesn't come to that, and then you determine, okay, then, who is it? We do have fee waivers with somebody potentially. Well, so the answer is I don't know. If we've had trouble, it's rare enough, and usually it's not 200. You owe us 200. Usually it might be that's $37.50 or what have you. You didn't. Where's your government book? Well, I'm not so sure. But at the end of the year, they're usually anxious enough to cut ties and have closure. That usually comes in. So, I don't know. The paragraph 2 can probably stay. Doesn't change anything. We don't have a schedule, a fine schedule in our handbook because we don't have a schedule of fines. That doesn't exist. If we do, it shall be included. I'm sorry?
It would be tough to cover every instance.
Yeah, and exactly. So, the language is fine, to be honest. It's not incredibly necessary to change any of that. If you're okay to move on to 50506, corporal punishment. All this language is relevant. It's usually, again, it covers you in a very, very rare instance. But I think it's all appropriate. But do you have any questions about any language there?
Is it debatable, or is it state statute like this?
Most of it is state statute, yes. The language the legalese language that covers you is reasonable and necessary. And administrators are giving teachers are given quite a bit of latitude to determine what's reasonable and necessary under certain circumstances in which to use some type of physical force to protect, generally, to protect others, to protect them from themselves. And now that I'm getting into the next policy even a little bit as well, but reasonable and necessary makes it very generic and very vague, and does put a lot of the responsibility on the decision that's made at that moment in time.
Usually that's not a time you want to be thinking about rules, you're just trying to control the situation.
Yep.
Anybody see any changes they want to talk about in that? Move on to 50507.
So this policy would be, like in the past couple of years, you've heard about Senator Groney of North Platte, who tried very hard but unsuccessfully to push a student discipline bill through the unicameral, which gave sweeping authorities to schools to stop a student from tearing up a computer lab. And I think that's literally where it stemmed from. In Hershey years ago, a student destroyed all the computers in the computer lab, and the teacher stood, hands off. That irritated him to a point, and, right or wrong, that, doggone it, somebody needed to go in and spank that kid, essentially, is what, somebody go in and stop that kid, do whatever you need to do to stop him. You shouldn't be able to do that. But it got muddied up with some other things, and we've had a couple of conversations over the past couple of years about it, if you recall, but restraint and seclusion would be for an uncontrollable use circumstance. And there are right ways and wrong ways that teachers can be taught on how to restrain, how to physically restrain a student. And that can be tough. So Mr. Sauser, you mentioned at that moment in time, you're not thinking so much about the language in a policy. It also can be difficult to think about the proper way to try to restrain a child in a very emotionally charged situation. So this can be very challenging. And it's very rare, certainly as well. But this also goes into, as you can see, seclusion, isolation, timeout, those types of things, which are a little more, okay, you gotta go sit on the bench during recess. You're being isolated. You need to go sit in the corner and time out. Those are very reasonable and a little more routine, obviously. But I know that Mrs. Thompson is much more familiar with this as an elementary. This is more of a, trying to restrain maybe a 180-pound high school student would be different than restraining an 8-year-old who's having an emotional outburst. So this is a little more relevant in your elementary building, and so I know Mrs. Thompson's a little more familiar with it, but I don't know if there's any language in here, Mrs. Thompson, you think is necessary to reconsider?
I didn't think so when I was reading
Yeah.
through it.
So what if you had an employee that went on a rampage? Would these rules go for that too, or would that be a totally different?
That would be a different set of circumstances.
She retired.
She retired and she's now.
She's on the
now
board
sits on the
now.
school board.
You're still in timeout, aren't you?
It's amazing what little therapy will do for
They
a
escorted me
recovering
to the door,
kindergarten
took my
teacher.
keys.
I'm glad you retired before you got to that.
We put her in seclusion.
Yeah. So as I guess we don't, as administrative team, don't recommend any language changes for any of these three policies.
Good by me. Number 10, board development.
Okay, you do have a photocopy in your packet. They are having NASB is sponsoring a workshop in Kearney. And even though it says new board member workshop, this is good stuff for every board member. And so you should be receiving these notifications either via email or hard copy, or both, I hope. And so I would just really encourage you to please consider it. And if you are, if I'm able, I will be happy to go with you to attend these. It's good for me. It's very, very good for me as well, even though I've been through these trainings several times. But you all know one training does not mean, okay, I got it, I get it, I understand it. Things need to be routine, and you need to hear them again, and it's just great networking also. So please check your calendars. I mean, if I know that during certain times of year, it's about impossible maybe to break away, but this would be very good, very beneficial, and I would be happy to attend with you.
We'd let you know if we want to attend?
Yes.
Are you going to
I
be
would
the
register
person
you.
to register us?
Yes. Yes, I would register you because I have the portal login on the NASB website.
Okay.
So let me know if you want to discuss it further or if you want me to register you.
Just get your money to him.
Huh?
Just get your money to him.
But I already did.
No, school pays for it.
Oh, okay.
Mm.
Well, I would like to go.
Okay.
Okay, move on to number 11, Building and Grounds Committee. We met the other night. Didn't really settle on anything, just started looking at some things that we were gonna have to, that were coming up. A list of current things that need to be looked at. Tell you the things that Tim and Dr. Thor and myself. So Dr. Arlt, and Mr. Juden was here, I guess. Mr. Schmidt was there for a while too. Again, the wall, south wall came up, like it always does, along with several sidewalks that are getting pretty well busted up, or our concrete areas that we looked at. We don't have numbers on all this. You might have some that you can share here in a little bit, but we're just getting started on it. The wood shop is probably our main smaller project. We're looking at dust collector. It gets so dusty in there. There's nothing in there to collect dust whatsoever right now. And getting the skid loader and the pickup out of there. It's just being stored in there in the wintertime, so because it's warm. So it'll start if we have a snowstorm or whatever. But they could sure use that room if we could get them out of there and get them moved somewhere else. And then he had a few saws too that he would like to upgrade, bigger saws, table saws and things that are probably as old as the school itself over there. But, so he's gonna come up with a little more detailed costs on that. So then along with getting the pickup and skid loader out of there, we're looking at some type of a garage setup, possibly where we have this little building over here on the east side of school. Maybe up to 6-car garage, maybe move our vans and Suburbans and those kinds of things all up here closer. Just an idea for now, I guess. We're gonna get some prices on that.
Will that be a heated garage then, or?
Well, I think we can just heat one bay, and put the skid loader in. I don't think we have to heat the whole thing for cars, They should start, so inside makes a world of difference. But we could, but my opinion is we wouldn't need to heat the whole thing. We don't probably have natural gas over there to put that type of heater in. We'd probably either have to spend money to put a propane tank in, or bury a natural gas line over there, or go electric heat. Which electric heat is
I don't think I do electric. I don't think I do electric. I don't think anybody in Texas wants electric anymore either.
But, if you're just doing one bay, you can maybe get by with electric instead of added expense of getting something else there. But we'll come up with some more estimates on that.
Is the skid loader diesel, I take it?
I'm sure it is. I wouldn't guarantee.
I would think it would start just in a cold shed. I mean, all my tractors start every morning to do chores when they're negative 25. I don't have a heated shop.
Yeah. You plug them in, you have them plugged in though?
Yeah. You can get a timer, that's what I do. Have them come on at 4 in the morning.
Yeah, the
Heated
main
shop
thing-
would be nice though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The main thing is when you.
Work on it or something,
Yeah.
too, we need to do something to it.
If you get up in the morning, you got that 6 inches of snow you weren't expecting, super cold, and you gotta get out there and hope it starts. But
Main thing is it would be close by, so it'd be easy to get, if we do decide to, whatever we decide to do there, it's right there.
Yeah.
Easy to get gas or electric over to it.
And then the biggie, of course, is the track. We went down and looked at it. I don't know, Jim, you want to comment on that?
Well, Dr. Arl was straight half of it, lifting it up.
He bought it.
I needed to make a point, I guess.
It's in bad shape.
Yeah, it is in bad shape. So there's gonna be a major decision on that, on how much money we wanna actually put into it. If we wanna get by or a couple of years or start over. So,
I think we kind of decided we have to do some patching on it before running the track meet there, because there's spots where kids could catch an edge and go down. So a few spots, something we have to do right away.
there's places out there the size of these tables, you can just grab it, just rip it right up if you wanted to. It's not attached at all. So maybe even bigger than that. So I don't know, do you have some numbers for us at all on patching, or if it's even possible to get them done before? I mean, probably not for this year.
No, when I called Pro Tennis and Court out of Omaha, they're the ones that came out last summer and gave me a quote, and their quote for patching it, and that was doing everything, was about $45,000. And then when I talked to him on Friday, he said that they wouldn't be able to get anybody out here this spring because his crews are all out and doing stuff already. So,
So the 45,000 would fix everything that's loose right now?
yeah,
And that would maybe last 5 years?
a couple of years probably. Just depends. Once it starts pulling up in certain places, it'll just start spreading.
I think we need to have a good talk with them when they get here. Because what we think and what they're saying might be way apart.
And I can set it up that if you guys want to be there,
I do.
so that way you can be there when he is, so you can ask questions, because you might have different questions than what I do. So, I can do that.
And this would just be patching if this wouldn't be, but this guy would do it all, but that, we're just looking at patching.
Yeah,
With this
you can
company.
ask him both if you want while he's here. That's what I did when he was here last summer.
And the patch he did a couple years ago is a good patch. I mean, it's still completely secure for, it's just, the whole track is deteriorating.
But
So
what he patched was just a crack. So
We-
you got a cover
yes,
that's about
we're
4
just
inches
some
wide.
strips.
But we've got whole areas
Yes.
that are just
Yes, so it-
fingerlings that are cracks. in
it would
all
be
directions.
10 times the amount, and it would maybe buy you a couple of years. You can keep kicking this down the road a little bit. I can share with you, this will be a building fund project, and your building fund balance, when we start next fiscal year, the elementary is going to be paid off in June. After the elementary is paid off, your building fund balance to start next fiscal year will be $650,000. Okay, your 9-cent levy brings in about $680. Okay, but you're going to start with $650 going into next fiscal year. So your building fund is pretty solvent. It's in good shape. If you were so aggressive as to say, we want this track replaced next summer, it could be done. But it doesn't have to be, obviously. But a $40,000 patch job, if you do that, you'd want that to last a couple of years. You don't want to patch it this year, replace it next. And your options on replacing it are tear off the top layer, clean up the foundation, put a new mat down, and it looks brand new, and that's pretty cheap. But you do have a bad foundation, and so you can keep doing that, and every 6 to 10 years, you're going to have to do that. If you want a 20-year track, they'll build you a 20-year track. But then you're going to pay your full $650, or somewhere thereabouts. I don't know. But you're you're in good shape financially to address this in the next couple of years if you'd like, even as early as next year, which I don't know that I'm advocating for that. But your building fund is good. Mr. Juden did give me a rough estimate on a 6-stall garage, about $30,000. Our kids would do quite a bit of work on that. But obviously we'd need to sub out some of that.
Did that didn't include concrete or heating or
No,
anything like that? Just
no, he
structure?
thought 30,000.
Do it all?
Yeah. Now, because I said, that, yeah, I didn't say what your half would be. So some of it was a little difficult for him to determine, okay, you know, concrete pad, I mean, he can do some measurements, figure that out. He knows the price of lumber, which has gone way up. Shingling versus tinning and siding and what have you. So, and then whatever your heating element might be, or piping in propane, but that would be a good investment. And again, if we're gonna tackle the shop, we've got to address lack of a good maintenance shed, which we don't have, so.
Do you know if that was all insulated and all heated, or?
Well, yes, I mean, I said we want an insulated, heated, 6-stall garage, so I guess that's what I'd expect. It could be 5 less, could be 10 or 15 more, I guess, by the time we'd get to it. Yeah. I did talk to Ashoffs, and they were the ones who bid our wall last year, and we approved that, and then we walked it back to focus on this, which was fine. He said you might need to add 5%. So that's gonna be anywhere from 42 for the wall to up to 60 to include a ramp. If we lose the whole sidewalk out front, which could happen, you know, then there's more. And then once you start pouring concrete, when you start walking around our campus, you see all kinds of spots where you could say, well, if we're doing this many yards, let's just add a few, let's do it. And all of a sudden, you're looking at $100,000 of concrete, I suppose. But at any rate, your wall is probably 50 minus a ramp. And it's the ramp that's maybe more necessary than the 100-year-old wall that is a bad eyesore. We need a handicap ramp on the south side. Been living without it for many decades, but.
Is that mostly for activities that happen?
Yeah, I mean, we use this door, we use the south side more than people think, even though obviously our primary activity entrance is here. And this handicap ramp is not even good. But, you know, it would just be the proper ADA thing to do to get a good ramp on the south side.
So even going back to the track, I mean, can't get anything done major until next summer. And all we can do before next track season is a patch job, correct? We couldn't be anything. So we've got to be, if we don't want to patch this thing, we've got to get through 2 track seasons to get to a rebuild. Well, I don't know if it'll make that.
Lane 6 won't.
I mean, I can't see spending 40, 50,000 for a couple of years and then spend 300,000 to tear it back out again. But I don't know what we do to get us to that point.
Oh, maybe that's where your contractor comes in and he's got some ideas for you, anyway.
Yeah, we still can't get it done before.
No, can't.
You know, even something like we could do, we talked about that, you know, the other day, or, you know, just ourselves, if you
Yeah.
patch it, at least some of these spots are really bad.
Yeah.
Maybe it would hold it down, I don't know. It's pretty bad in a couple lanes.
Just tell him we want to buy a couple barrels of his stuff.
I can get them here and you guys can ask questions if you want. Before the next meeting. And you guys can come out and I'll figure out a time that works for you guys to be here, and then you can ask him all these questions. He has all the answers, I don't.
So I mean, if there is something we can do ourselves, if they can't do it, can't get to it, he might be all right with us, you know, selling us the product and telling us how to do it. I don't know. You know, if he has a chance of rebuilding it in a couple of years, well,
We'd work with you.
might work with us, yeah. I don't know if that's even possible or not.
There's not many companies that do this, isn't that correct, what you said?
No, I had, like I told you, I had 2 quotes, one from Omaha, one from, I believe it was Oklahoma, and then there's another one in Iowa that I haven't heard back from yet, so.
And they're 2 years out to do it.
I didn't even ask them how far it is to actually refinish it. I would assume their schedule's probably pretty full, but I know that they can start as soon as track's over, and a lot of them go all the way up until Christmas, because they can go through that fall season too.
So there's a chance they could do it before next season, you think? I mean, you don't have a definite no.
I don't have a definite no, but I
Okay.
also can't say yes.
Okay.
So I'm saying I don't know, that's a good way of saying it.
Well, let us know when they're coming.
Yep, I'll get on that.
You guys have anything else that I forgot, left out, you wanna add? We talked about?
I think you covered it all.
Was Mr. Jim gonna get us some prices on some saws and?
Yes, in fact, I'm gonna let you know when Mr. Frericks said he would be very happy to come to Plainview from Lincoln and help us with this transition. So I tell you what, if we've got an expert consultant, I say we use him. Number won't pay his mileage and some expense, but I think it's worth it. He's a former shop teacher, school administrator. He's now a safety inspector for the state and for the Department of Ed. And he has done this in the past. Derek and I went and visited West Point Public's shop, which he helped them transition to some cabinet making, all dust collection system and so on. So, I mean, we're fortunate to have somebody help us do this. So I'll try to get him here, and maybe we can coordinate it with our track again. But actually, we probably shouldn't, because both will take a little bit of time. But yes, definitely by next month, we should have the opportunity to meet with him and then have some real specific numbers for the April meeting.
So if we have him involved, it should pass inspection at least the first year.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks guys. Number 12, ESSER 2 funds.
Well, as you know, we have about 4 times the amount of money in the second stimulus. Sometimes call it CARES 2.0, but it's really ESSER funds. So, I've shared a little bit of information for you about what are allowable expenses, allowable use of funds, and then, I've got a bulleted sheet in there for you as well. That shows where we chose to expend the $60,000 in our first stimulus. Those have been pretty much expended. In fact, we've spent all of ours. Zion still has balance. And then your right-hand column, I have highlighted or shaded for you expenses that, purchases we've already made really prior to this, which we can now request reimbursement for. I would assume that's okay. We've got $231,000. We may as well be reimbursed for some pieces of technology, some air filtration, and cleaning equipment. And then I just brainstormed, along with Kyle and Heather, some things that we would probably maybe recommend as probably pretty reasonable purchases with these funds. The state of Nebraska is strongly urging school districts to tackle unfinished learning. Okay, so these funds are meant to close, or to help children who were most affected by disruption of school due to COVID. Now, our disruption was essentially only 2 months, and that was in the spring. So we're so much better off than many other schools around the country who have been either hybrid all year or didn't come back until October or later, or some who still aren't even in school, right? And so there's massive unfinished learning for those students. We don't have that level of unfinished learning, but our teachers and our building administrators, particularly in the elementary, could easily identify students who are not at benchmark, and we could easily attribute it to COVID disruption, which would be, again, either last spring or in the fall we had teachers gone at a higher clip. And when teachers are gone, that disrupts learning. We had a lot of students that were quarantined for 2 weeks, missed 2 weeks of school. So there's more disruption. So we've been talking a lot about a very robust summer school. We've always had a summer school. It's not been incredibly formal, but it has been an opportunity for kids to stay connected at school and to affect what's known as the summer slide. Kids that are away from school and don't maybe read a whole lot in summer, or they're not in a literacy-rich environment maybe at home. So we would really love to try to put together a pretty robust summer school, which would be 16 days. I mean, what I would recommend would just be a 16-day Monday through Thursday in the month of June. the mornings only, where you're essentially focusing on literacy and math. Maybe some science, but literacy and math, language and math. But that means we would really have to be a structured environment. We've talked about we'll need a teacher at each grade level. You're gonna have to compensate those teachers well, more so than your, 20, 30, 40 bucks an hour, whatever we've been paying in the past for summer school, because it would be a lot of work and very, very important work. So we've been talking quite a bit about that. That would be there's a lot of easier ways to spend this money. We can reimburse our general fund for custodial expenses or technology expenses. Salaries, as you saw here. So that there's a way to expend some of it. That would be reasonable as well. That doesn't tackle your unfinished learning that the Department of Ed really wants to recommend that schools consider. So we have some discussion. We have until September of 2023 to claim the funds. I will write a grant. I will write a budget based on what you approve, and then so it's not incredibly complicated, but I need to just work through that, and then I get an accounting query of expenses from Kelly, and I upload that, and it shows proof of purchase, and then the funds are just all of a sudden Kelly will say, yep, got the bank statement. We got the ESSER's funds are in reimbursements in, so it will just obviously replace those expenses. So I don't know. Your thoughts?
Is there any way, this is just a thought I've had, can we give like a bonus to people? No bonus?
Good question. Can't.
Okay.
Yeah, stipends, bonuses, can't do that.
What about the fans in the tartan up above? We got air filtration's a big one on there. Are those fans in good shape, or is that something that needs to be looked at?
Okay, I would think, I don't know whether those would qualify under air filtration. I would have to they're getting asked, thousands of questions, I know, at the Department of Ed.
And maybe they're fine, I don't know. But
Yeah, we don't have great ventilation in the tartan, not so much because of the fans, but it doesn't have any intake air. But yeah, the air in the tartan is not awesome.
I personally would like to see some of the money spent on the summer school and then additional parent teachers where they're needed, where it directly affects the students. I mean, technology is great, but I think, you kind of set up pretty nice over there right now. If we could hold off on that and put money where actually people working with kids, and the summer school teachers would be the actual teachers, right? Certified teachers.
Yes.
That would be our goal.
Yep, we've got teachers that are very interested in teaching summer school, and then we've got some paras that are certified teachers that are also interested.
Oh, they have a teacher's degree?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
So you're talking about paras for like next school year? Or
No,
for
I'm
the
talking
summer?
about for the
The
summer school,
okay.
because, if you're really going to have a robust, you need somebody
Yeah.
that's,
Mhm.
They'd be working with all the kids all the time. in a
Yeah.
short period of time.
yeah.
Yes.
So we don't have, Mrs. Thompson may have some general numbers, but we wouldn't share those yet, but whether we've got, anywhere from 8 to 12 kids per class, or 6 to 10 or 11 or 12. So we don't know exactly what those are, but Mrs. Jensen is right. The more adults you have working with kids, that's one of the greatest indicators of student achievement is teacher-student ratio. So, if properly compensated, if we had certified teachers and/or additional paraprofessionals who know our kids, and that's the key, is ideally, the classroom teachers who have been with those kids this whole school year. But it doesn't work in everybody's schedule. Teachers, you generally don't plan to teach every morning for 4 weeks in June.
So what are your thoughts from July to June?
Okay.
Because previously you've gone in July.
Yeah, I think, that's certainly, up to the board. I personally don't want them, once school is out, I don't want them away for a month. I think once you get into July, yeah, it's just gonna be harder and harder to have a teacher commit to, 6 weeks or 2 months of their summer.
Oh, no, I'm just saying July
July
versus
instead
June.
of
Because I know in
June.
June,
Yeah.
it's a busy month for kids for softball
Yeah.
and
Why
swimming
couldn't it be
lessons.
broke up? You
Yeah.
could put like 2 weeks
So-
in June, 2 weeks in the.
Oh, yeah, like maybe
July,
last 2
because
weeks of
isn't the
June,
whole
first 2
goal
weeks.
to not have a huge gap of not learning or whatever?
Yeah.
Well,
You know.
it's just, yes, so you could look at it several different ways, Chance. So if I've got 4 solid weeks, as opposed to 2 weeks, we're really getting some momentum, and now we're gone for a few weeks. I mean, so you can discuss that, back and forth a lot of ways, and depending upon the people and the kids, this might work better for this student, might work better for this one schedule-wise. We'll never find something that works for everybody's schedule. So kids that we may invite, yes, I want my kid to be there, however, we are going to blah, 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 and so they're gonna miss that Wednesday, Thursday, and that will be unfortunate, but that will be reality as well. But 14 days out of 16 is better than none. 12 days out of 16 is better than none. So, yeah, I think Mrs. Thompson and her team, and again, focusing on the elementary, we do credit recovery in the high school. We'll probably continue with that. That's a way different animal than what we're thinking about for elementary. Junior high's caught in the middle a little bit. That's a little more difficult thing to crack, to figure out. But if we're just looking at the elementary building, I think Mrs. Thompson and the teachers that are committed to it will probably devise the best time schedule. My initial thought for the start of conversation was that Monday through Thursday for the 4 weeks of June. So they're not too far out of school. We still got it. We're still sort of used to school. Okay, 4 solid weeks in June. Now you've got 6 weeks off, and then school starts again middle of August. So that's just a conversation starter.
Yeah, I would agree with Deb that a good portion of that money should probably be used for some kind of summer program that you think is necessary to get the kids caught up, so.
We wouldn't spend half of this in a very robust, where teachers are compensated well. We're still not gonna touch half of this
Yeah.
in a 16-day summer school. So
But
there
if
is a
you
lot that
include it
and of
in
course,
the-
this can go next summer as well.
Okay.
We have to September 23. So we have 3 potential, summer schools to address unfinished learning.
But you could also address additional teacher if it's necessary for this next school year.
You could.
With the summer school for
that-
this year.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
could.
They do tell you, of course, whenever you make a permanent purchase with a grant, that will go away.
Right,
When the grant goes away, the school will then assume that expense.
right.
Unless you are lucky and you have some attrition about that time and you just non-replace somebody, and it's a wash at that point. But
Yeah, and that's been done before,
Yep.
a 1-year contract, that's understood by the
Mm.
hired employee. Ended up being more, but that's how it started out.
It'll be nice to see the results that come out of this too, on how
Of
the
the summer
kids.
school?
Yeah, how the kids respond then going into the next year, where we've got 2 summers, and then, you can adjust the next summer, or see
Right.
whether it really worked great, or it didn't work at all, or it didn't make a difference, or then you could adjust the second year. Now, I don't know if there's a measuring stick that you can compare to previous years of grades. I mean, it's tough, but you can get some sense, I would think, some feel on whether it was better or not.
And of course, your teachers know.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Your teachers generally know. To provide hard and fast data is not always quite as simple. Teachers and kids and parents, they know and can tell when there's, good academic growth, sustained.
The only thing I have concerns with, I guess, as a parent, is that, for one, I have to battle my kids every day to get them to go to school right now. I don't blame them, I hated it too. But go to summer, it's gonna be even more of a battle. And then the other thing I don't like about it is, they're gonna quit at noon. It's just another time I gotta come to town by noon and pick them up.
Yep.
That part sucks
Yeah.
for little kids.
Understood, and so our parents would have to be on board. I mean, so we may invite, the kids, and parents will decide whether they can swing it or not, or want to. Yeah, there can be no mandate. The only thing we have is mandates, to a certain degree, is credit recovery, at the high school. If you want credit, you will be here. If you don't show up, you don't get the credit, you'll retake it, So it's a little different in the moment.
Have you ever run buses for summer?
Wouldn't run buses. We did talk about, and we would, definitely try to provide meal. So kids come and we'll have some kind of breakfast. Would love to be able to send them home with a lunch, a sack lunch, or even a sit down. I don't know so I've run this by Linda, and she's like, well, okay, yeah, they'll let me know. That might not, be kind of, again, teachers to teach in June is not always the most exciting, what they want to do, and same with our kitchen staff, but that would be helpful if we're to say, your kid's going to get 2 meals and 3 hours of instruction.
So you would go from 9 till 12?
Well,
Is that
what
what
we
you're
were-
saying? You're thinking 3 hours in the morning?
Yes, we're thinking they come and get lunch. School starts at 8:30. School is done at 11:30, 11:45. Here's a bag, here's a sack lunch, out the door you go.
Okay.
So if you're not getting 3 solid, 3 hours of instruction with, and teachers know when, break outside, little this, that. But if you have to, come in, I want more than just 2 hours.
Right.
Come and get my kid,
Mhm.
3 minimum.
So probably at some point you're gonna have a meeting with all the kids' parents that are gonna be involved, and try to get them to come in and see what works for who. and what-
Well, I don't know that we would ever, that would be quite difficult to have everybody and what works for everybody. I think it's what works for the teachers. And then parents will just have to make a decision.
A letter would go out
Sure.
explaining why,
Yeah.
and what's happening.
And I think folks would understand that
Mhm.
you gotta do it when you've got the people that can do it.
The only thing, okay, so what if we invite, let's just say 100 students, and only 25 of them get sent there? Like, we don't, and then let's say we had 5 or 6 teachers that were gonna do it, but then there's like way less kids than what you want,
Yeah.
it makes no sense to pay.
We'll get
6.
commitments.
Yeah, typically when we send the letter out, we have
Like an
the
RSVP
bottom
or
of the
something?
form that just check yes or no if your child will be attending.
Gotcha.
And then we can base teachers off of who's gonna come.
That's a little bit, yes, like Mr. Sauer saying, conversations with families. So this isn't something we can wait till, 1st of May to try to hammer out. So we'll be discussing quite a bit, a little more seriously, but definitely wanted to, start the discussion with you. And again, this isn't gonna gobble up, all your money and, all the money that's in the second stimulus, but it is, to me, it's undebatable that it's the best expenditure of these stimulus funds, is to address unfinished learning, have teaching and learning go on with it. Safe environment, yes. Air filtration systems and all the rest. It's certainly reasonable as well, but what kids have lost in academics due to COVID disruption should be the priority.
I think we all feel that that's priority number 1 to work on for what we need to do with that money, so try to come up with something for us next month.
I think we can.
Okay, thanks for that. Number 13, Rule 10 revision presentation.
Hey, so I will, instead of tonight, we'll do this at a next meeting, or I may even just push this video out to you. So Rule 10, which is the Bible of the minimum standards for the operation of public schools, is being completely rewritten. Rule 14 is the approval rule for non-publics. So there is a 15-minute video from the Department of Ed that every school board member needs to see. And it's just a little piece of education, so you have at the very minimum a surface awareness of what the Department of Ed is doing with Rule 10. So they are moving to this, as you can see, the 3-column approach of approval, accreditation, and accountability. Rule 10 is, as I gave you a copy a few months back. I have no illusions that you've read it. That's a responsibility of your administrative team. That's what you pay us to do. But there's an awareness, at least, that the board needs to have about Rule 10 and what is happening to Rule 10. And so this can come at a little bit later date. It honestly won't be earth-shattering for you. It's one thing, it will happen, and you may not notice a difference in the day-to-day operation of our school, but it is something that all school board members should have, at the very least, an awareness of.
Okay, move on to action items. Number 14, discuss and take possible action on second reading, the revision to policy 611.07, graduation requirements.
This passed first reading last month, so you have a copy in last month's packet, actually, but I guess if you haven't had any feedback or have any questions since last month, passing it tonight will make it official policy.
I'll make a motion to adopt changes to policy number 611.07 as read.
Is there a second?
Second.
Great, Chair first and second, myself, yes. Deb?
Yes.
Dr. Thor?
Yes.
Chance?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Wyatt?
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0. Number 15, discuss and take possible action on the 2021-22 calendar.
Okay, so we started with a calendar that just essentially replicates this school year. So, as I mentioned to you every year, I always start at state track and I count backwards to see where school needs to start. It's start early, finish early is my philosophy. People are generally ready to get back and they're generally ready to be done. And anything after state track is just tough learning time. Your seniors are gone. It's sunny and 75 every day. So I start at state track and go backwards. So both calendar A and B reflect that. Those two options, the only difference that you've noticed is the professional development dismissal days. We've moved over the past several years from early out for professional development on the first Wednesday to now the first and third Wednesday. That has been very productive, intentional, purposeful, useful time, especially as we come upon our frameworks visit here in a couple of weeks and in the preparation for that. I would say I would not recommend a robust professional development schedule that we have if we didn't have Mr. Schmidt and Mrs. Thompson who know how to plan and prepare good professional development. So, in the past, we've just had one option generally, and we discuss it, and maybe I go back and tweak it. I hope one of these are appropriate. It can certainly be whatever that it is that the majority of the board wants. We got some staff feedback. It was not particularly strong either way. Did not get a whole lot of feedback, but it was not overwhelming for either option from the staff.
So apparently that half a day off doesn't count against you in your days, because it both got the same amount of days, start and stop.
Correct. You go by hours, right?
Yeah, you go by hours, so why, if you lose those hours, why doesn't that cost you anything?
Well, we still have, we have enough days that we have plenty of hours. We need 1080 in the high school, 1032 in the elementary, and even though we show the same amount of student days, we do have fewer hours in calendar A, but we still have enough to meet Rule 10 minimum requirements.
So in option B, there's just, I assume it's kind of hard to see the colors, but there's less professional development.
Yes,
since
Well,
you're
sorry.
only- So you're only having it, you're not making it up somewhere else, or?
Correct. B is only different than A in that we wiped out the third Wednesday PD.
That's really the only difference between the two?
Yes, I believe so.
The only day that it just kind of drives me nuts is, like when we get back from Christmas break, and then they go to school one day, and then the next day is an early out. I just feel like we can maybe change that and slide that to like the next week or something, because it just doesn't make a lot of sense to go to school one full day and
Yeah.
the next day they're out early.
Yep, understood. And when we visit about that, we just wanted to start out for the sake of consistency, so our people know if it's a first or a third Wednesday, it's a 1 o'clock dismissal, even though we just came back from break. So I understand that, Jen.
If you slid it to the 2nd and 4th, you could get an extra day of Christmas vacation for the kids, or half a day.
They're not
I'm always
interested
looking
in
out for the
that.
kids.
Hey.
If I was a kid, that's what I'd want.
Most parents want to get their kids back to school by that point. They're tired of them being at home. They would probably prefer we didn't have PD on Wednesday and kept them all day Wednesday too.
I would, because I forget to come pick him up at 1 o'clock sometimes.
So what's the preference of the 3 administrators?
My preference is absolutely keeping both PD days.
Okay, option A then. Okay.
I agree with Heather. Especially since we have our external visit coming up. I know we talked about, we have those committees that we shared with you. And that's what, those afternoons are what we're really gonna start homing in on here starting next year, when we have goals in place and things that we're gonna have set that we want to take care of, and that's gonna get a lot more robust. So that's what.
That's the time that the committees are actually
Yep.
going to be able to do the work.
Yep.
So it's, one a month can be actual PD learning time, while the other can be the committees doing the work that they need
Continuous
to do for continuous improvement.
Good enough for me. No.
I'll make a motion to adopt the calendar option
Hey.
A.
I'll
A
second.
for the 2021-22 school year.
Sorry, I'll second that.
Okay, it's been first and seconded. Wyatt?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Chance?
Yes.
Dr. Thorne?
Yes.
Deb?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Motion carries 6-0. Number 16, discuss and take possible action on offering a 1.0 full-time employment contract to Kim Miller for the 2021-2022 school year. Guess you have a resume in front of you. Would you say you had 2 or 3? Yeah.
We had 2 complete and one late that, showed interest, but the position had already been offered, so.
And you said that was good.
Yeah, yes, for business, I was happy to get one. I mean, that's a tough one.
Basically, it's a formality. I mean, the board doesn't hire teachers anyway. It's basically a formality, so.
So I'll make a motion to approve a 1.0 FTE teacher contract with Kim Miller for the 2021-2022 school year.
I'll second it.
Okay, so first and second, myself, yes. Jim?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Wyatt?
Yes.
Tim?
Kim's family, so I have to abstain.
Okay, Chance?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-4 with 1 abstain. Okay, what are we been waiting for? Number 17, discuss and take possible action on revising COVID response plan. I think you all got my email that this isn't just about masks. I mean, if we don't vote after this meeting, we have no plan, 0 plan, nothing in effect. So we have to talk about all bases of it, whether we want to keep any of it, all of it, some of it, whatever. But I think the things that I listed to you that we've got masks, taking temperatures at the door in the mornings, entering specific doors, disinfecting, hand disinfectant, sanitizer, all those things. Is there anything else that we do that, oh, the dividers at the kitchen tables over there, which I would recommend we don't tear them out, because if something happens and we have to go back into something, well, I hate that to see it go back in again till the end of the year. But that would be another thing that we do. So, I think the administration has compiled some numbers for us, some facts or whatever. You can share with us, is that right?
Well, we did conduct a student and staff survey, and it's not going to be incredibly helpful, the raw numbers of for or against students wear, teachers wear, parents, option their kids out. The raw specific numbers on that were not overwhelming. The comments were a little bit more so from your staff. Pretty overwhelming that teachers that feel teachers should wear masks was overwhelming that in favor of a mask, wear the mask, doesn't hurt anybody. I will keep wearing mine either way. All staff should be required to, however. They're keeping us safe, protects us and others. We should continue for both teachers and students. One of them said it's time to get back to normal. That was the anomaly of the general consensus of comments. So the staff thoughts on staff wearing masks is status quo. And the staff on students wearing masks is similar. Finish it out, safest and medically prudent way to proceed for the rest of the year. Wait till winter sports are over. Students should be required to wear masks until they're vaccinated, which means we'll start next year with masks. Making an option for those students to wear their masks during the season. I would hate to see my students have to quarantine or miss out on opportunities of learning activities and sports. It's simply not worth the risk. Little to no complaints from the children. I feel that the little amount of school that we do have left, why not keep it the same? So the strong majority of comments from staff about students wearing masks was status quo. Other comments for board to consider from the staff. I think that if quarantine rules still apply, we're better off being masked up for the last 3 months of the school year. I would say we finish out the school year with masks. I feel if we need to keep the mask policy in place, I feel we need to keep it in place for the rest of the year. I do not believe parents should be given the option to exempt their children. We do not like wearing masks, but because we do, we're able to stay in school, we're able to participate in activities, we're able to stay healthy, we're able to keep our friends, family, and loved ones healthy. Wait until winter sports are over. I vote to get through the year. I feel it's important that we keep the children in school. Wearing masks will help. I do not think they should be given the option to just opt out of wearing a mask, just finish it out, keep everything the way it is. So there is a sense of, gee, Christmas, we've been doing this since August and we just have 2+ months to go. That seems to be the consensus from the staff. Mr. Schmidt, do you have any comments from students?
I didn't ask.
Or mainly
for
just
student
raw
comments,
numbers?
Just basically yes or no on a survey and required optional. So the staff number came out 54% felt that it should be required. For students, there was 36% that said it would be required, but then on the flip side, when you asked them if they would wear them, we had 58% said they would still wear them. And then I went down and broke it down to our positive cases that we've had. We've had 11 students this year that were positive and 8 staff members that were positive all first semester since Christmas. We haven't had anything in this building, not even quarantine. And so to even take those numbers down farther, for students, we had 9 in September, 2 in December, and our staff, we had 3 in September, 3 in November, and 2 in December. So just break that down.
In the elementary building, as far as staff, we've had 7, first semester, 7 adults or adult staff that were positive, 5 additional that had to quarantine but were not positive. Second semester, we had 1 positive. For students, first semester, we had 4 that were positive, but we had 81 who had to quarantine. Some missed over 25 days of school, so not 25 days of quarantine, 25 school days from their quarantine. Second semester, we've had 2 students and they missed 17 school days.
from
So
one.
was any of the quarantine of the 25 school days positive, or are they just multiple quarantines?
No, single quarantines. So a quarantine and then, so elementary students run into the problem that they can't isolate from the parents who are positive. And so they have to quarantine for the parents' quarantine time, and then their actual quarantine time doesn't start until the end of the parents' quarantine time.
Sounds like its own problem then.
Didn't that get changed?
Yes.
It did, but it got changed from 14 days to 11.
Okay.
So
Yeah, that's a cancer itself.
the numbers went down, but not
Not a lot. I know.
significantly.
I
It
was
goes
thinking
down
more.
further if they decide to test at the end of the parents' quarantine time. It goes down to, I believe it's,
Seven.
I thought 5,
You
but
can
maybe.
test out at home, too.
You can test
You
out
can
at
test
5.
at 5 and you get out at 7.
At 7, yeah.
Those 2 students in the second semester, were they positives or were they quarantined?
They were quarantined.
Just quarantined, you hadn't had a positive, just.
Parent positive.
Practically all of our quarantines were not due to exposure at school.
No.
I mean, I don't know if we have those specific numbers, but I don't know of any. I'm not saying there aren't any, but practically all of our quarantines were kids, close contacts, parents, or episodes outside of school.
Yeah.
So school has never been a spreading environment by anybody's definition. The quarantine rules do still apply in terms of who's required to quarantine. So, I mean, so this is part of your decision that you need to consider. If both, and this was, I think, the discussion, honestly, in August, was so if our kids are wearing masks, they won't be caught up in a quarantine. That still does apply.
That was incorrect. That's what this battle was about that her and I had. That was incorrect. It's still incorrect.
You both have to be masked to
And they're all
avoid quarantine.
quarantined. Everybody's quarantined.
If one person has a mask on, if I choose to wear a mask and you choose not to wear a mask, and you become COVID positive, and I'm determined to be a close contact, even though I'm masked, I have to quarantine.
So then why are we even wearing a mask?
Right.
We're wearing masks
It makes no
because
sense.
if you're wearing a mask and I'm wearing a mask and you are COVID positive, I don't have to quarantine.
As long
That's-
as.
Yeah,
both
but do you
wear
even
it.
listen, like, how dumb that rule sounds?
It's not my rule,
Yeah,
Chance.
well, put another mask on, and if you're afraid of it,
It's
wear
not-
2 of them.
Chance, it's not my rule.
Well, it's not
I'm just
anybody's rule.
sharing
I don't
with
know
you.
why it hasn't been
I'm
pro-choice
just
all
sharing
along.
with you the facts of the rule. That's all I'm sharing with you. Whether I agree with them or not.
But let's look at.
I want you to be able to make a fully informed decision.
Well,
So-
I have one other thing to add to your fully informed decision. I got emailed by 5 teachers, and everybody did. 3 of them were pro-choice, only 2 of them said they wanted to keep wearing a mask. And like everything you just read was pretty much everything was, let's just stay the same, Dr. Arnold.
I'm sharing with you.
I'm
what
just
I-
saying,
what I
you're
got
pretty
from-
biased the way you do it. You
Okay,
seem
so-
like,
What do you want me to do with this, Chance?
pro-mask,
What
like,
do you
let's
want
just
me to-
wear a mask.
What do you-
I'm not pro-mask.
It's not, he doesn't even get a vote, he's just telling us.
I know
Well, not only
but
that,
it's-
we got emails that are not what the teachers turned in. Is that what teachers turned in to you?
No,
from
this is, I got
your-
emails straight from a teacher.
No, I know,
There's
I'm
5
just asking.
teachers that emailed me.
That's different than what you read off. Is that what you
Yeah,
read off?
that was-
Those were comments?
So they just changed their
the
mind
teacher
when they
gave you?
emailed us?
No,
Different
he
teachers.
I
just,
think that was all of them, right? Did you?
These are all the comments that we received from
We
teachers.
heard from 5 today.
Okay.
Those were all of them, which 3, 2.
they may not have said the same thing,
I
is
don't
what
know.
my point
It's
is.
hard to say.
Yes.
That's what I'm asking. Did they just change their mind?
Well, they could have just
It
said,
could be different teachers
Yeah.
that didn't respond on the Google
Yeah.
form.
if they didn't even say anything. I really appreciated you 2 ladies. You did a nice job. You made this decision even more hard for myself. And I appreciated hearing from teachers and community members also today. So I thought, well, I called 2 different health providers, and I asked what their opinion was. And one was from Plainview, and they felt they're in favor of the mask because not only that we've gone this far, the kids are used to wearing them, but they've seen a lot less flu and respiratory things coming to the clinic. They just haven't had as many at all. And my other concern is with not wearing the mask. We have kids in our school system that have health issues, like asthma or heart conditions. So if they're exposed to COVID, that's hard for them. I mean, I was blessed with 3 healthy kids, not everybody is. So I'm trying to think of the whole picture, but I appreciate hearing from everybody. I did call 2 health providers because I wanted an objective opinion. So,
I have a lot of immediate family that works in healthcare there, and I have a mom that's a registered nurse. My wife is a registered nurse who is going to graduate and be a nurse practitioner in May, and my sister is a registered nurse. And every single one of them is required to wear a mask at their job, but every single one of them thinks masks are useless. I have to agree with them.
I
And then
agree.
my other thing I have to say is if people truly think the mask works, wear it. For God's sake, wear it. If you got a teacher that thinks it's gonna save them, wear it. But if the kids don't wanna wear it, or the parents don't want their kids to wear it, don't make them. Just like she said, I don't know why we've been making people wear them the whole time. Pierce has always been able to be, parents could just opt out of it. And I have a really close friend who has 3 kids in school in Pierce. One of them's in junior high and the other 2 are in elementary, and none of them have been quarantined all year, and they've never wore a mask. This mask thing is just dumbfounding to me how different perspective everything can be. It's like it's okay for you to do it, but not okay for him to do it, or whatever.
that's typical of COVID. You can get 5 different answers from 5 different people.
I mean, we were thrown in 5 different directions, the health
Yeah.
department, in a hurry,
Yes.
weren't you? I mean, it was the.
But wouldn't the simple thing have been, way back then, to just make it the parents' choice? Takes the weight right off of our shoulders, guys.
Dr. Earl, I got a question for you. What if somebody files a lawsuit over this?
They
about
can't.
Violation of rights?
They can't. The
How-
school-
why can't
the
they?
school
That'd be
board-
easy.
The school board can determine safety measures for schools. And the school board can indeed mandate or require mask wearing, just like you can prohibit certain clothing to be worn in school, which we do. We have a dress code. So that was litigated early on. So I mean, it's an excellent question.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know, because
But
that's kind of where
your-
we're almost to
your
that
legal
point. I'm
counsel-
worried about it.
But let me admit, I am not pro-mask. I am pro-board decision. The board said in August, we're gonna have our students wear masks. That's why I advocate for them, and until I'm told different. And when the board says masks are now optional, I will be pro-mask optional. Okay, so I just want to make that very clear. But I'm providing not Darren's opinion. I don't have filtered data from teachers. But I want you to make a fully informed decision. The quarantine rules is the only hang-up. The risk level is incredibly low. I think everybody agrees. And maybe always has been. The quarantine rules, however, are unchanged. The fact that it's now not an automatic 14-day is not what I'm talking about. What I'm sharing with you is, if one student is unmasked and one student is masked, a masked student is in jeopardy of quarantine if the unmasked student becomes COVID positive and they were a close contact. So, I mean, that risk is still there. Whether you
Them same
think,
2
whether,
students
excuse me,
could not have
excuse
masks
me,
at Subway, though.
whether you think the risk is so low it's not worth masking everybody is your decision. And whatever decision you make, we will enforce. So we're not here to take a position. We're here to provide you with the information that you need to make the most fully informed decision. That is all.
Well, I'd like to make a motion that the
Understood.
masks are optional.
I second that motion.
Okay. Now, I'm not trying to talk you out of this, but we have a lot of other things on the table too.
Well, we can talk about.
I know, but I wanted it out there
Just
before it
want
got
this one
stopped.
thing out there right now. Okay, it's got first and seconded. Deb,
No.
Jim,
Yes.
Chance,
Yep.
Tim,
Yes.
Wyatt,
Yes.
myself, no. So it's 4-2, it passes. Masks are optional. Okay, so now we gotta talk about taking temperatures. Do you want to throw these all into one bundle? Want to pick and choose? Discussion? For me, the temperature thing is a waste of time because I think people only had sent one kid home all year with the temperature, and I don't know whether they even had COVID or not.
We still doing
That's
Yes.
that's what my wife said. She said she sent one person, or not even any, I don't think she sent anybody home in the morning with a temp check, so.
I've had one. I've been taking temperatures since you guys
I don't
asked
know how
us to
long
do, and
it
I've had
takes.
one.
Did they
We're
have
still
COVID
doing
or
it.
did they just have a
Yep.
fever?
I think
My daughter got temperature.
Tens of
She
thousands.
literally- I got back
I
from the
bet.
shop.
Temperatures
and
I bet.
She was puking in school. So like obviously the temp didn't work.
Yeah.
So we're probably gonna throw that one out. What about disinfecting?
I think we keep that.
I think we need to do
Yeah.
everything else.
Everything else?
I'm fine with the mask not being optional, but I think all these other things probably help more. so.
Temperatures
Yeah,
too?
The
and
mask,
and those probably
the
should have been there
disinfecting.
all along, the disinfecting and all that stuff during.
Skip the
flu season.
temperatures, Tim?
I don't think we need them. I mean, from what
I
I've
agree.
been told.
I'm with the
But
sanitation.
I think sanitize, distance the kids as we have been,
Yeah.
give them mask break, be outside as much as they can with the nice weather. I did hear a complaint they don't get enough mask breaks, but I guess that won't be a problem. Now, the kids that want to wear them can certainly still do so.
And teachers that want to wear them can wear them.
Right.
But I also don't think that if a teacher wants to wear them in her class, she cannot require all the students in that class to wear them either. It's optional.
It's worried me, like, you can see like at the basketball tournament this weekend, we had a mask requirement. 2/3 of the people aren't even wearing them. And everybody's been so good to go along with it for this long. I'm worried that some parents are gonna, get pretty upset. They're gonna say, my kid's not gonna wear a mask at school, and then what do we do?
Yeah.
Do we have to pull the kid out?
That's why I was asking about litigation, because some of them
Yeah.
are pretty pissed.
Yeah, that was
That's
probably
what's
the
kind of
tipping
concerning me.
point for me too.
And if things change and we start having some cases again, I'm certainly willing to change it.
I'd jump right back in if it came back. Not a problem.
Until yesterday, I was gonna vote to get rid of them. But I've always said that my priorities are the staff that work in here 5 days a week and the students that are in here 5 days a week. The rest of us on the outside, I don't really care what your thoughts are, because if you can't put a mask on to come to a ball game or a meeting or whatever, stay home. But then we started getting these comments from people, and I was looking mostly at the staff, there weren't any students, and they were 50-50. My opinion is if you're gonna err, let's err on the side of safety and not on not safety. So that's why I voted to keep them. I don't have a problem with not wearing them, but I was looking for the people that are in this building.
Yeah, I've probably changed my decision on this probably 6 times in the last 24 hours.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have a problem that we voted this way, but it's just.
What it basically came down to is the amount of gym time that I've spent over the last month. Anyway, from whether that was wrestling to basketball. You see people, they abide by the rule to get in the door, they take it off, they put it in their back pocket, and that's the last time that you pretty much.
Yes, enforcement has been a challenge,
Yeah,
increasingly so, no
Yeah.
doubt about it. And so this, there's, I would guess we will not have an issue,
Mhm.
okay, safety-wise, I would guess.
Sure.
But anyway, that's just speculation, but the enforcement has become an increasing issue, certainly, even during our school days, and not horrible by any means, but, so that's fine. Now, in the fall, there was discussion about a teacher, if you had an immunocompromised teacher, or a teacher who cares for an immunocompromised adult at home, that they want to, I don't know that, we might have one staff member who is gonna be very uncomfortable with not having masked students in the classroom. Just so you know, and so we'll deal with that as best we can. May or may not be an issue, but,
But if they're wearing a mask, they're fine.
Yeah, exactly.
No,
Put two on
they're
them.
not. The person that gets it has to be wearing a mask.
I'm talking about the
Yeah.
person that's worried about taking it home. If you wear, the way the science is, the mask protects you, so if you
No,
really
it
believe
doesn't.
that mask protects you,
The
then
mask protects you from giving it to somebody, it doesn't protect you from getting it.
how does that even make sense?
okay, so.
That's what
But,
I'm
I mean,
not a
do you-
doctor, I
what
don't
do you
know, but
think?
that's
I
what the
mean,
rule is.
You're breathing the same air out as you are back in.
I don't know. That's just what the rule is. That's what
Okay.
I'm going
That's
with.
a
I'm not a
stupid
doctor.
rule.
I mean, everybody has their opinion, that's fine, but like I said, I'd rather err on the side of safety than.
Well, you can keep wearing your mask.
So we will, I assume kids know before they get here tomorrow, but we'll let them know that we're not gonna enforce their wearing of a mask, and we're not gonna take their temperatures at the door, just so I understand correctly, and that they can enter any door and exit any door. Is that what you understand as well?
No temperatures coming in and out of.
I think entering
I think it was
the
just
door,
a-
they probably should still enter the door, especially for the elementary kids, because they're
I
pretty
would
much.
They're
really
certainly
appreciate
used to that
elementary to
routine.
Stay as it is.
The only, what.
I think that,
keep
no,
it-
wait a minute, we made the motion here to remove masks. All right,
That's
now
all
I
we're
think we need to
talking
listen
about.
to the administrators on what protocols that need to stay here, just a
Yeah,
little
I
bit.
didn't hear what she said.
Yeah, I would really appreciate the doors to stay as is, because that's the routine that the students are accustomed to for the first 3 quarters of the school year.
Okay.
I completely agree with you.
Mhm.
And sanitizing.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah,
I agree
which is
with that.
pretty routine anyway, but,
It's even more so though this year. I mean,
it is.
I mean, the
and,
kids are grabbing the bottle to spray me, I
Yeah.
think, every time
Yeah.
One thing that I heard that was unanimous, and I probably talked to, 30 people the last 3 days about this, was they were split on the masks, but they're unanimous on the other protocols. They all believe that the other protocols all worked, that you guys put in place. And they did not have any fear that the school was an infection point at all in any way. And they thought that it was a good compromise. We took away the masks, but left in the other protocols. But that was up to their,
Mhm.
the administrator's decision anyway. They thought it was so
Yeah.
warranted. So
Our teachers
I
are
think that's a good
excellent
compliment, I
anyway.
think, to you three.
If we're worried about the temperature of us, they're pretty good at spotting that anyway, and so we honestly, we probably can dispense with taking the temperatures of 315 kids every morning. If we're worried about, a fever, a teacher's are pretty doggone good at spotting when a kid's under the weather, and then off to Miss Patsy they go in the elementary, and so,
Okay.
the doors is pretty, particularly at the elementary, Mr. Schmidt may have something different here, but taking everybody's temp, that helps a little bit with staffing for that first 10 minutes of the day, so.
Any news on those ultraviolet eliminators?
Haven't looked, no.
They're still on order then, huh? I'm still in favor of getting them.
Because that was, we talked about that for the work.
Because we can eliminate our hot spots in the
You're-
future for anything.
Yeah, that could easily, would easily fit in your ESER 2.
Yeah.
Allowable
I just
use.
didn't know if we'd had them yet.
No.
Been a while.
Yeah, I know.
Your,
You brought
your,
that up.
your air purifiers are here.
Yeah.
That
Okay.
we purchased in the fall.
And those are.
Took them a while to get here, but they're
In and running.
running.
Question on the teacher that had an issue, are the students, are they aware that teacher has some concerns? Because I would think if the students knew that, anybody that was in that teacher's
Mhm.
class would put a mask on for a period,
Not something we've
That was a
talked
big
about
issue.
since August, though,
Okay.
of how she may feel now, unless you have Mr. Schmidt.
Haven't had the conversation with her.
I would think our students would understand that possibly.
That's just a matter of respect for
Yeah.
her.
Well,
Especially if it's in
the
high
students
school
might
where
understand it,
there's
the parents of
one
those students might not.
Yeah,
That's very true.
yeah.
I don't think any parent's gonna get mad if their kid says, Mom, I'm gonna wear my mask to Mr. Schmidt's class because I'm doing it out of respect for him. Nobody's gonna get mad. I would never get mad at my kid for that. I get mad if the teacher's like, you're wearing a goddamn mask or else. Then that's when I get pissed.
I don't think any of our teachers will put it that way.
Probably not. I'm a little rough around the edges, Carl.
One thing we haven't talked about, and it's probably too late, but, we did this with the sports deal, we held out to this month, we still have state speech that goes till, possibly till 19th, they'll know tomorrow, whether they have anybody going.
Next Friday.
I don't know if that, you guys have any.
Track.
Well, track's outdoors,
Yeah, that's true.
but I don't know
I
if you
guess-
wanna take that into account whatsoever for the speechers, we did it for the other sports, I don't know if you wanna do anything for the speechers or not, but it hasn't been brought up, and I wanted to bring it up.
That's a good point. I guess, I feel that, look, we went through with the kids unmasked for basketball, wrestling, we never had an issue. I guess I think the chances are really, really low.
But that goes against what we just voted for, so. I don't know how you can put the mask back on now.
No,
It
you
took
can't
a
put the mask back on.
So,
Okay, I think we.
okay, so we need to make a motion that we were gonna get rid of the
Temperature.
temperature
check.
testing,
Everything else stays
but
the
everything
same.
else stays the same.
Yeah, that's what I've got.
I'll make a motion to get rid of the temperature taking devices at the beginning of the day, but everything else, all the other COVID protocols are gonna stay in the same.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Jim?
Yes.
Deb?
Yes.
James?
Yep.
Tim?
Yes.
Wyatt?
Yeah.
Myself, yes, motion carries 6-0. Okay, we're on reports, activity director's report.
Winter seasons came to an end, so saw girls basketball made sub-district final, boys basketball finished in the first round, and then wrestling, the boys won state. To go along with that, if you were watching girls state basketball, you would have saw Coach Boyer. He was honored for the 1920 NFHS Nebraska Coach of the Year. So he was on there, I believe it was the Class A game. When they did that at halftime and showed that. So he was on TV, and that was a big honor for him. I also wanted to throw out there this year, Chad Schumacher was named District Wrestling Coach of the Year as well for our boys. So a lot of big awards going out for coaches in our building. And so if you see them, please congratulate them on things that they've done over the years, because those two have been here for a long time.
So is Mr. Boyer's all coaching, all sports for the year? Wrestling? Or-
It was just wrestling,
Just wrestling.
yep, for wrestling. So, with that, starting of spring sports, track is underway, golf just got started today. So that'll be big. Kids are excited. We have a lot of kids out. I think there was 35 kids out for track, and then golf, I believe, has 11 out right now. So that's a pretty good number. District speech is tomorrow. That's in Atkinson. They are allowing 2 people to go and watch each speaker. So this will be the first time this year, I believe, that speakers have had an attendance from people being able to go and watch. So that'll be different for them, but I know they're ready to go. If you came and watched the open house the other night, there's a lot of really good speakers and a lot of good speeches, so that's exciting. Along with that, I gave you guys, this was a long time ago, but a uniform rotation that we have, and I can give you guys another copy of that, but we are looking at doing basketball uniforms for next year. So that would be boys and girls, both home and away is what we were looking at. And so next month, I will probably be bringing you some numbers to get approved for that. So we had a company come in, we had Luz out of Fremont come up, and he's doing some mock-ups and stuff. And just to give you an idea, right now, it's looking like 110 per uniform, and we'd have to do 60 of them, because you do 15 home, 15 away, and that's both boys and girls. And so that's looking at about $6,600 is what that would end up being for basketball uniforms for both our teams. And the jerseys the teams are looking at are Nikes. So with that, we would get a $3,000 kickback from Nike. So we would be able to order. What I was thinking, I wanted to order coaches apparel for all of our coaching staff and give them some stuff with that, whether it be polo, something like that, if we choose to do that. But looking at years and stuff, the boys' reds are 4 years old, the boys' whites are 6 years old, girls' reds were 3, and girls' whites were 5. And so those were some of the older uniforms that we had. And then I was looking at also the girls' junior high has basketball uniforms, our boys do not. So if we wanted to make similar uniforms for our boys' junior high to what the girls have, those run about $35 to $40 a piece, so that'd be about $850 to $1,000 if you wanted to do that with it as well. But I can get concrete quotes for you for the next board meeting so you guys can see that, and also get you some images of what they look like and what you're purchasing with it.
So the JV just wears the old varsity then?
So then the old varsities would move down and be the JVs, yes.
So we don't have any junior high track. They've got to wear their basketball uniforms for junior high trackers.
I just learned that today, yes.
Do we need to do something with that a little sooner than some of these others? Or?
Wait a minute, what's that again?
The junior high girls have to wear their basketball uniforms for track. Because there's no
Not-
track,
yeah.
tops for junior
Not
high.
incredibly uncommon, but, you know, they've got a number on the back, you know, which normally in track, you don't have a big number on your back or your front. Not incredibly.
Unless you're superintendent.
I suppose same thing. I didn't have that.
Just in love, buddy.
Yeah.
Well, that's true.
Understood.
Are the boys the same way, or do they have their own?
Boys have, they look like an old basketball.
Well, they can
one,
take
but I
out
think
Plainview running down the track.
They're like a white kind of pullover type thing that they have to wear. Things I've seen done in the past, you can get, if kids just wear their own like regular black shorts, generic, schools have done just a regular t-shirt, so it'd say Plainview Pirate Track, and they just wear that for the junior high season. Track you see I have on here down next year.
Right.
I plan on doing high school varsity and cross country. That being said, we would have to get through this year and next year with that track uniform for the junior high.
Why couldn't we get it done before track season?
We won't be able to get it done before
Next
this
year.
track season.
Next year.
We could do that, yes. If we wanted to say next year we do that, I could get the junior high ones done in the fall, so that way they'd be here in the spring. And then we could order the varsity ones in the spring. I mean, that's a decision you guys can make too.
Do you have funds for all that then?
That's what I gotta
Do we have funds? Well,
ESSER
we-
funds cannot be used for uniforms.
ESSER funds for uniforms. We generally subsidize the athletic account, at the activity account. The activity account is always solvent except for athletics, especially when your football equipment is expensive, but uniforms is, $110 buys a nice suit, but it also only buys a pair of shorts and a tank top for a basketball player.
Just
Just,
because it's got a Nike.
it's got a Nike on it.
Take that off.
But the other thing with it, the old schedule that we had, there's really not a big difference in what it would cost per year that I took from the former AD and what the schedule was. It's just that one year we would buy, say, boy away jerseys, girl away jerseys, and then the next year they would buy the home jerseys. But things were split up, and so I just tried to categorize it so everybody gets the same uniforms on the same year, so everything matches.
So is 4 years kind of typical, all longer than last?
No, I plan on going 5 or 6, so then that next year we would just be open. So there would be a year or two that there wouldn't be expense, is what I was going to try to do. So that's just to get you thinking about that. Coaching adjustments, did want to make you aware, I talked with Mrs. Hitz, as you know, she'll be having a baby in July. And so she was down to coach both varsity and junior high track. After talking to her, she wanted to be in school a little bit more, and she was good with just doing the junior high track. And so I talked with Dr. Earl to make sure it would be okay. I was gonna help out with the high school track then, at this point. So that was the plan, just to make that addition there. And I've talked with Taylor, and all payments and everything's the same, so it just changes. It's the same amount of positions, it's just taking 2 positions from her and splitting it, so it's 1 for her and 1 for me, is what that would look like then. That's one, right? Okay.
Is that just a 1-year deal, or anything, or you don't know?
Yeah, I don't know on that. I really don't. Because yes, next month is when I will start doing the extra duties, so I'll have a bunch of that stuff done for next month.
All right, thank you for that. Number 19, principals report.
Okay, so elementary numbers. So the first numbers you see are last year's numbers, and then the second numbers you see are this year's numbers. So last year around this time, we were sitting at 26 kindergartners. I just looked while we were in our meeting, and we are currently at 26 kindergartners. Last year at this time, we were at 17 preschoolers, and right now we are at 14 preschoolers. So we're pretty close to our numbers, and we haven't had our open house yet, so that is pretty good. Pennies per patients, that number's a little bit off. We actually brought in $1,953.57, which is awesome. The students had a lot of fun bringing in the money each day and getting to feel the bags of pennies or quarters or nickels or whatever it was for the day. So it was not fun carrying all of it in the freezing cold because that was that super cold week. But yes, that was a fun week for the students. And speaking of fun weeks, last week was our Read Across America week, and we did have 2 feature board members. So we had one board member that came in and did some painting. I didn't even realize that he was quite the artist that he is. But if you stop into the elementary building, you'll see some Dr. Seuss artwork.
It's still up?
It is still up, yes. So now you know
I told
who
Miss Patsy
painted.
she can't clean it up.
Yes.
Dr. Seuss has probably got to go now.
Yes. So he did an awesome job. He came in over the weekend and painted the window for Patsy and I so we could try to win the door competition. We didn't, but we should have.
Should've got somebody else.
Yes. No, you're down for next year already.
Can't quit till you win.
And then we had Deb come in, and she was the guest reader because she shares the birthday. You know, famous people,
Dr.
awesome
Seuss.
people were born on that day.
There you are.
That's what I always brainwashed my kindergartners, but it was fun. I
Yes.
enjoyed it.
So we really appreciated her coming
I
in.
did.
And she read so all of the students rotated through, and she read a couple books to them as they ate their snacks that day.
15 books in 2 hours and I didn't
Yeah,
have a voice. by the
she
time
had
I was
no
done.
voice for her birthday
I'd have sat
evening.
in on that.
Oh my gosh. Toward the end, it's like,
But it was a lot of fun. So if you're not on Twitter, or if you are, go and see some of our, or actually check out the newspaper next week to see some of the pictures from that week, because the students and the teachers had a lot of fun that week. We did something called Stop, Drop, and Read. So we got on the intercom a couple times a day and just announced to stop, drop, and read. And so we set a timer for 10 minutes, and everybody literally stopped wherever they were. So I went and found classes and read with them. And I walked down the hallway, and there was the whole 4th grade class lined in the hallway just sitting there reading. So, and then at the end of that time, we announced different things. So if your book had featured food in it, or if your author's name started with an M, come to the office for a prize. And we literally had lines of students to the door. So it was a lot of fun, just doing different things to celebrate reading. So, you want to do the next one?
Testing starts at the end of this month, so NSCAS will start on March 22nd is when the window opens. Our juniors will be taking the ACT on the 23rd. Mr. Peter will be giving that at the city library. And then all testing will be completed then by April 30th. And then along that same lines, we'll also be map testing then until the end of school. I think our plan is to have it done May 8th, I believe, was the last day that we're gonna try and have map testing done. So that way we map tested fall, winter, and spring, so we're able to see over the length of a year where we were able to make the most growth, what we did, interventions that we put into place, how that affected our scores, and be able to see that over the course of a year. Math curriculum work. We've spent a little bit of time in the last 2 professional developments that we've had looking at new math series with our teachers. Heidi from the ESU came to Plainview and talked to them and talked about instructional shifts that would come with new math curriculum and resources. And then we also have, I know at the high school building, some Zooms set up with a couple of companies so our teachers can ask questions about the resources and how the different programs work. And everything that we've selected, I believe Heather and I picked 3 for each building. Some were a little bit different, but we went to Materials Matter, right? Is what it is. And so basically what that is Ed Reports goes in and they look at all of the curriculum and all the resources, and they're able to then see how it fits state standards and which series do the best with meeting those standards and which ones are the easiest to use. That's a ranking, and then
Rigor is a ranking.
Rigor is the other one. So All of those, we made sure that they were green in all areas, meaning that they meet all the requirements that are set forth by the state. So, I mean, if you want to hit on that a little bit more.
Yeah, so then we asked the teachers to go in and look at the programs that we had kind of narrowed it down to, and determine which one or possibly two they wanted to kind of move forward with. So in the elementary building, we have ordered materials from 2 companies to come. We've received one. So all grade levels have the material from one and online access to one. And they're going through that kind of on their time right now and during plan time and, you know, all that extra time that teachers don't have. They're looking through those materials and figuring out if they like it. And then once the other one comes, they'll figure out if they like that and want to do a pilot for one of those.
At the high school, we did start a reading challenge. They call it the Treasure Cove Reading Challenge. Mrs. Yelk did all of this. I told her that I would like to do a reading challenge, and she set it all up with a few incentives, so that started March 1st. And really, if a kid reads a book, they can go to Mrs. Mosel, Miss Hanson, myself, Mr. Peter, Mrs. Yilk, and Mrs. Yankee, and tell them the book that they read and a little bit about it, and they would get a point. If they write a book report on it, a page long, they would get 2 to 3 points. If they make a movie trailer about what they read in the book, then they would gain anywhere from 4 to 6 points. And every 5 points you accumulate, you put your name into a basket. At the end of the month, we'll draw names out of the basket, and they'll get, there's 3 gift cards, so we draw 3 names, and it's $10 to Casey's, $10 to Subway. I think this month is Casey's, April is Subway, and then at the end of the year, whoever accumulates the most points, I'm gonna give $60 to, and then whoever second, 40, and then whoever ends up third would be 20.
Can I read?
No, sorry, but I'm reading. Just something to see how we can generate a little bit of interest in reading, and so I need to check that sheet and see how that's been going.
Is that just high school or high school?
7-12.
7-12.
Yep, 7-12.
Awesome.
And so with that, we designated homeroom as our reading time, so that first 15 minutes of the day is kind of a sit down and read for all the kids.
Awesome.
Yep.
We have our external visit coming up, so on March 22nd and 23rd. The 22nd in the afternoon, it will be online virtual. The 23rd, the team will be here to go through, and they will basically just be talking to our teachers, talking to our leadership team, looking through artifacts that Kyle and I have collected for them. And they'll let us know what we're doing well and what we can improve on, and help point us in a direction for a goal. And yeah, hopefully we'll get some great feedback from that. They will be looking for some additional people to interview, so they might be contacting some of you to do interviews. So we'll let you know if they select you.
Tell them to call me and I'll assign somebody.
There we go, there we go.
Content day.
Ms. Thompson needs a big shout out on the external visit, because she's put a lot of the artifacts together and very organized, and she did a digital notebook for it. And it really has everything laid out in order of what they want. There's links to everything, and she organized all of it and put it all together. And so I know she put a lot of time and effort into it, and I feel like it makes our school look really good. So she needs a big shout out for that.
It is a lot of work.
Yeah.
It is a lot. Good for you. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
I've been on the leadership team. That's
Last one, college prep. We've had a few colleges come in the springtime. They'll send out reps and stuff. Mr. Peter has done a great job this year, a little bit more organized. Previously, it was just if you were interested in a school, go and see them. Now we have sit down during study hall time. All juniors come and talk with this rep. So they're being able to see and get exposed to different college experiences, maybe learn something about a college that they didn't know, generate some interest. So that way it gets the ball rolling and gets them thinking. Fall time, he does seniors with the reps, and then in the springtime, he does juniors. So that's been a good thing. That's just getting started here at the beginning of March. And then also I wanted to throw out there that the scholarship process starts here in March. Most all the scholarships are due here at the beginning of April to middle of April. So if you know some seniors that are out there that might be dragging their feet on scholarships, tell them to get rolling, because that stuff needs turned in here at the beginning of April.
I think she's.
It's your job.
So, but that's it for us, so.
Good, all right, thank you very much. Okay, next president's report. We didn't have a committee meeting this month on policy, I guess, but we told you we'd get you the evaluation sheets, 3 different ones, and Dr. I'll have those in your folders, so you can take those home. And we'll try and get together before our next board meeting and come up with some wording, timing, time frame on how we do the evaluation and salary offerings and all that. Try and bring it next month, so if you want to look those over before next month, see which ones you like, don't like, if you have a preference or not, we'll have a discussion on that next month.
Is that the one that's online, Mike? Or is it a paper one?
The evaluations, there's 3 different ones.
Yeah, I know you gave it to me, but I mean, is that the, are you looking at the one that's online?
Yeah, that's, I
Oh,
think he
that
has
one's
the
in there.
Nebraska one in there, yeah.
Nebraska
Okay,
one,
okay,
yeah.
Just
thank
ran
you,
a
thank
hard
you.
copy.
Thank you.
I just want to thank, the administration, teachers, all the staff, what you've gone through this whole year so far and getting us to this point with, as minimal problems as what we've had. I think you're doing a great job. Future looks bright, I think. And I also want to thank the wrestling team, state championship team again, and I guess we got 2 coaches to congratulate this year on their awards. So to both of them, Mr. Boyer, Mr. Schumacher, I'd like to congratulate them. And good luck to the speech tomorrow. So that's all I have. So move on to the superintendent's report.
Okay, certified staff contracts automatically renewed by state statute on April 15th. We can require a commitment from teachers as early as the 15th of March. So as early as the 15th of March, you can require teachers to sign their renewal notice, which is essentially what it is. They prefer to have it be the 15th of April, but the board can require any time between the 15th of March and the 15th of April for teachers to commit, and it's a 2-way commitment. We're committed to you, you're committed to us. It protects you, it protects us.
Do we have
Okay.
that policy or anything, or is that changed every year?
We don't, that's statute. That's statute that says you cannot require them prior to the 15th, but you must notify them by April 15th of whether you intend as a school district to reemploy them to honor the renewal.
So every year we would have to.
Yes, every year, but they automatically renew if you don't do anything. They automatically renew on the 15th. But we generally send out a renewal contract, same language every year, place them on the salary schedule where they will be next year, minus any horizontal move due to education, which we correct once we get transcripts. So I don't know if you have strong feelings one way or the other when we want to commit our teachers, when you want to express your commitment to them, I should say. But then when you would expect a commitment back from them, I guess. But anytime between the 15th of March and the 15th of April. So, sometimes just a happy medium, somewhere in between. But I have them all ready. They're ready to hit teachers' mailboxes at any time. It's just when we want them to
So
be
we need to make that
returned.
decision right now.
When we want them to commit to us. Well,
Because next month will be
yeah,
over with.
well, I mean, it
Or over with.
again, you technically could wait until next month's meeting, but again, you don't have to actually take any action. Your administrative team would let you know if we have a contract which we do not want to have automatically renew, and that isn't the case. So even by next month, it's whether by next month's board meeting, do you want to know who we have commitments from? Generally, you do know by your April board meeting.
Sure.
So that,
It's only like 5 days before the 15th anyway.
Mhm.
So, yeah, that'd be fine with me if we had them.
So,
You
I
guys
mean,
wanna do that?
those are, again, those are ready to go out, and we can't commit or expect commitment prior to March 15. They automatically are committed on April 15th unless either party notifies the other. We don't intend to have you back, or they say, I don't intend to come back.
Yeah, I think it's
So
fine.
that's, again, that's statute, but, so I would, you know, as an administrator, we would like to know by the April meeting, so I will probably distribute those and give a April 1, which are, you know, right in the middle. Commit to us by April 1, we're committing to you, so it's,
So
protects both
basically,
sides.
when you send that email, you're basically already saying that we want you back.
Yes.
It's in the ball's in their court at that point. right?
Yes, exactly.
We're not gonna let you go, it's your choice if you wanna come back.
How long
We don't
do
want
they
to
have to
leave.
respond?
Well, you know, they can have as many as 30 days. I mean, we can
It's really pointless then.
you can give it to them and say, you can hold on to this for 30 days. And even if you don't return it, it's binding on the 15th of April. They don't have to sign it and say, because it's technically not a contract after the first year. It's a renewal notice. But it's okay to use the term contract. You know, let's get contractual language in it. You know, so, but it's generally pretty typical somewhere in between. But some school districts are pretty ambitious, and they'll say on the 15th of March, we want to know, and you're locked in. And then they'll make individual decisions about if somebody wants to take another position. That doesn't mean, most boards do let folks out, depending upon the content area, grade level, or, you know, once it's June 1st. Usually you're putting the brakes on.
I can see our big schools where they maybe have 30, 40 turnovers every year.
Yeah.
They wanna know as soon as they can to start filling those positions.
Yeah.
We're usually not in that
Yeah.
situation.
So you don't think it's really applicable to us then?
I mean,
We don't have the sense that we need to get commitments ASAP. But you never know. I mean, we do have a responsibility to, you know, protect, you know, the staff that you expect, the staff that you need, the staff that you've approved to teach in school, so.
depends upon the position too, how hard it is to fill.
Yeah, but they do have to all go at the same time and come back.
So I would say somewhere in the middle. like what
So yes, at the April board meeting, we'll have information for you on, yes, these have gone out and they've come back, and so. Teacher budget requests are out, and so they're doing a little shopping right now, and the administrative team will filter all those, certainly have conversations if we need to, but 9 times out of 10, what teachers ask for is what teachers need. And that those things are generally approved. Our CARES 1 grant claim has been approved, and so I'm expecting, you know, $60,000 from our ESSER 1 money to be wired on any day, any given day. I would expect that by next board meeting, we'll be able to report to you that those funds are in our general fund. I certainly hope so. EOP training, that's something for later. Honestly, vaccination update, we did vaccinate folks on the 24th. Not everybody who wanted one, they only had enough doses for what you see there. We're scheduled for second dose on the 23rd, only slightly concerned about side effects of second dose, which you hear, you know, could be, so we need to be we need to have a little preparation plan in the back of our mind that if we second dose the same folks and we have even 50% of them who have side effects too severe, because the 23rd is on a Tuesday. So that's just that's a thought of your administrative team in preparation. So I did see one school in Iowa had to cancel today because they got vaccinated on Saturday. And so they couldn't have school today because they still had too many teachers with side effects.
Do we know what time that vaccination's gonna be?
It'll be throughout the day, just like the first one on Tuesday, so it's gonna be a challenge. These guys did a good job. I was able to get all the slots at the end of the day, and so we were able to cover the end of the day and have 2 waves of teachers at 2:30 and 2:45. Yes, we do not want to vaccinate at 10:15 So as soon as I get the sign-up sheet for that second dose, I will get on there and try and get all those at the end of the day.
It hit some of them pretty hard first shot, didn't it? So
Let's say again.
It hit some of them pretty hard. on
Yep,
first
we
shot.
had 3 teachers that needed to take some leave that next day.
So do we need to just automatically schedule that day as a day off from school?
I don't think so, Chance, but I think we need to be prepared maybe to have it would be about a last minute decision. If we were to have, we could cover, if we had 5, 6, even 7 teachers that had side effects too severe to come to school Wednesday, we could swing it, but if we had many more than that, we'd be struggling.
I'm just suggesting, I feel like we call off school sometimes when there's a prediction of a blizzard, wouldn't it make you guys' lives easier if you just said no school the 24th?
Well, you would be pretty popular.
Whoa, first time.
You would be-
Keegan's fist bumping on it.
Yeah, I don't know that we need to do that. I think but it would be
Because the 24th is
potentially.
already a day that you guys get out at 1 o'clock, right?
No.
No,
no,
that's
the
a 4th
fourth.
Wednesday, so.
Darn it.
So we'll go for it, and we'll see.
You had Mrs. Thompson all excited.
We did make a staff hire for our kitchen. We lost Becca Lingenfelder last month, and so Terry Alvin is now a member of the Plainview classified staff. We now have our school board policies are now more accessible to the public. We were able to make a link on our website, so if you go to district office, plainviewpublicschools.org, district office, there's policies and people can read to their heart's content.
She used the front and backs of every page.
They are just front Google Doc copies. So yes, the wrestling mat that you approved, I was dissatisfied with it, so it's been sent back to Dollamar to be fixed. We haven't paid for it yet, and we won't pay for it until it looks exactly like the proof that I approved back in May. And so just if you hear anything about the wrestling mat, it's being fixed. And there's your enrollment summary. Frank and discussion and even debate is healthy. But I think when we're in this forum, acting on behalf of the school district, can't be using profanity, particularly the Lord's name in vain. Not here, not when we're operating for the conduct of the schools. So I just think that's a standard that we have to expect for ourselves. That's all I have.
All right, thank you all very much. Meeting's adjourned.
Can I ask you one thing, Dr. Earl? The other morning when it was like super foggy, did you ever